Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to talk about My Hero Academia chapter 386. How are you guys doing? I'm doing great. I'm very excited to talk about this week's chapter of Hero Academia. I think there's a lot of cool little things going on here, both positive, negative, and also neutral. I'm very excited. This is the My Hero Academia. This is the My what was the name for it again? My Simp Academia? Yeah, this is My Simp Academia, the All for One years. And I know that some of you think I am not a good all for one simp. Look, listen, I am. I'm the greatest all for one simp, alright? Like, it's just like, I'm so great that you just can't fathom it because you're just not at my level, you know? Anyway, hey, welcome. Hope you're having a good day, guys. I'm having a good day. Not because of Hero Academia, but because of my own personal attitude. Anyway, let's get into Hero Academia. Now, you know what? Let's start at the end. I want to talk about the end more than I want to talk about anything else first, just because I feel like, come on, like we gotta celebrate it. I think this is a really big moment for Horikoshi. All right, I'm pretty sure that if I just leave this here, like Shonen Jump won't bother me for this one, right? Like it's just a bunch of lettering on against like gray background. There's nothing of significance here. Anyway, I think when I look at this final page of Hero Academia, I look at it and I just think, this is a big moment for Horikoshi. So many things are culminating right at this moment. I have to imagine that this guy sat down and he like just gave himself a pat on the back just because he finally got here. There's a lot of things building into this. He hasn't like brought it up recently, but there is that whole All Might prophecy going on in the background. This is kind of a scary situation to be in. I think this is a really big moment for Horikoshi drawing this here, and like I think if we were to like start piling on the layers of significance here, we could do it very easily in terms of what's being answered. We're getting an answer to like the whole can you be a hero without a quirk, which is obviously yes. The idea that you can't be a hero without a quirk is propaganda, especially when you see the reality of Hero Academia. I don't know if like readers notice this, but there's two kinds of facts that get like produced in a story. There's like the sensational fact, like the surface. Oh, you know what? Let's call it surface level because it really is surface level. There's the surface level fact, like you can't be a hero without a quirk, and then there's the fact that comes about by logistics, just by sheer logistics, just by the sheer like, well, this has to be true for everything else to work. And like we'll talk more about it for the hero question, but we have the culmination of that. Like when you have Horikoshi drawing All Might as a young guy and him seeing Izuku, like essentially making it where he saw himself in Izuku. That's a pretty big moment. That's the first time we've ever had that particular imagery for it. We could assume that All Might saw himself in Izuku, but you never had the juxtaposition the way that you had it here. You never had that very hard imagery as the way you got it here. And then in terms of like the I am here, well, I am here has always been this like really big moment. Like people always talk about Izuku having his I am here moment. In this one, the I am here takes on a second meaning of like, hey, I am here for you to come after. Not I am here to save the day, but like ironically, All Might's I am here is also a symbol of hope here, or like it's a beckoner of hope. He is creating a moment of hope, in the sense that, well, he is delaying the inevitable that is All for One wiping the floor with everyone. So this is both a hopeful moment and also like an excellent use of the I am here line to do something else. It's a double meaning that's coming into fruition here. And on a lesser note, you also have this wonderful little thing with All Might's device. Now, ever since in the Gaunt arc, we knew that All Might was packing something. Did we expect it could be something as great as potentially a power suit a la Iron Man? No. Honestly, I thought it would be a weapon. I never thought he'd get a power suit. That's pretty awesome. Glad that we're in this era. But yeah, no, ever since the Gaunt arc, if you go back to like that Gaunt chapter where like All Might got stopped by a bunch of hoodlums and you had him doing something and they got freaked out, and then you saw like the BZZT sound effect. Back in those days, I would say like, well, he clearly had something. It's just we never got to see it. And this is why. It's because he was going to be using it here, which is honestly pretty awesome. So With this chapter, you know, you get the culmination of a lot of different things. We were also right about a few things from the previous chapter, like this whole thing with All for One's face. When I saw it, I honestly was reminded of like just Shigaraki's faces, and we know there's a reason for that. It's because like everyone and their mother is saying that All for One is being influenced by Shigaraki. Now, thankfully, in the last chapter, the author gave enough information such that we could come up to that conclusion by ourselves. In the last chapter, even I went and said that, well, if he's having dark impulses, it's probably from Shigaraki, not necessarily from his All for One vestige. Now, on regards to the vestige, I do kind of question that. Like, I think the vestiges don't work the same when it comes to One for All versus All for One. What that vestige is doing, All Might can feel his vestige, and the vestige can receive information from All Might, but he can feel the vestige when he's in close contact with Izuku, if I recall the line correctly. All for One is being influenced from a distance, and it's the vestige influencing the main body. And not even that, it's influencing him with like the emotions of the person he's hijacking. To give you like the best thing here, imagine if All Might was being influenced by like Izuku's crippling self-doubt, right? Because like if we're going to talk about like what does Izuku have that could be anywhere near comparable to like Shigaraki's like tantrums, it's like, all right, it's his ability to cry, his crippling self-doubt and self-esteem issues, and his desire to break his body to help people. You know, and we've never really had like All Might talking about like he's being influenced by Izuku's feelings through the vestige. It's an interesting thing. Is it bad? Not really, because you just have to say like the vestiges work differently across both quirks. That's all you really have to say. It doesn't really matter. It's just an interesting observation. We could probably play with it and flesh it out a little bit more and like try and figure out some like logical consequences for it, but not really important right now. All that really matters is that this is something, it's a mechanism that's allowing for this beautiful face to form here. Now, I have many things to say about, you know what, let's just start here. Let's start here with All for One. You know, strategically, attacking All Might here is a stupid thing to do. Strategically, you want to go and meet up with your other self and get the whole thing wrapped up. This is so obvious that even Horikoshi knows it. He has All Might narrate it for the readers in the back. He tells us pretty much like, yo, bro, if you are being influenced by Shigaraki right now, I am pretty sure you're going to take the bait. So what I'm really trying to say here is that this is not All for One's fault. This is Shigaraki's fault. All for One going down there to attack All Might and wasting time and like doing pretty much what All Might wants him to do, 100% Shigaraki's fault. All for One is the man that can run an empire without moving from his little like makeshift throne. Like All for One really can just sit down and the world moves around him. All right, that's how it works. Shigaraki is really the one that's ruining the All for One flow here. So this is not his fault, it's Shigaraki's fault. All for One is still untouched, he's still the best. All right, cool, got it, great. All for One simping. Ooh. Anyway, yeah, nah, man. I really think this is a really big moment for Horikoshi. I think like he must have patted himself on the back. I think a lot of things are building up here. What are we gonna be looking forward to in the future? I don't know, man. We're going to have to see if he brings up the Night-Eye rhetoric. Now, on this point, I also want to talk about my predictions in terms of the bingo cards. Let's see if I can find them here. Okay, so what I really want to talk about is pretty much like this stuff right here, like where you see like All Might dies to Shigi. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think Horikoshi, like, yeah, this is like fairly surprising. I never thought that All Might would go to All for One. I really thought he'd be going to Shigaraki, so I was really biased on that one. I really thought it'd be All Might versus Shigaraki, and that's where like the death would happen. I didn't think it would be with All for One, so that's pretty cool. Now there is another one here though that's worth pointing out. Ida drives Shoto over to Endeavor versus Dobby. Ah, we got it. We got it. Better mark it up here. Well, I'll mark it up later. But we got it. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. I'm happy that we got it. This was the most obvious thing to do. It was the most brute force method. And in Hero Academia, the simplest solution is sometimes the solution. In terms of other things that were really good in the chapter, I'm so happy that Stain did not, in fact, go and try to cut up Ida, because that would be brain dead. That would be even more brain dead than what Stain has shown before. So I'm really glad that the author spared us some insanity and just like had him just be there for like a thing we'll talk about. We lost out on, we lost out on Shigaraki maybe killing All Might, but hey, we got this one, and this is the one that really matters. There's a lot of things I want to talk about when it comes to that one, though, because I think some things are really hilarious with it, and you'll see why in a few moments. Anyway, let us return to the beginning. let us go. Now we start the chapter. Now we will do the page-by-page walkthrough proper. We start the chapter with a pretty dire situation and a whole lot of weird things going on. But before we get there, let's investigate something interesting. Alright, what battlefield is this? I've zoomed in on it, but I can't really tell who that is. It kind of actually looks like Izuku's gear right here. But then we go this one. There's a lot of destruction here. It can't be the ocean battlefield. There's a beach here. So I will assume that this must be, like, again, another shot of Izuku versus Shigaraki. There is another interesting one, though. Let me zoom in here. Right here. This one looks like it might be the provisional license arena. It's a little bit hard to tell. If you zoom out a little bit, you can probably see a little bit better. You can see some heroes here, but I can't really tell who those guys are. Lots of little screens. We have sound only, so someone's getting a voice call. But yeah, no, like, it looks like this spot right here is destruction. So like that fight is still going on. Sero still needs to get like his moment. So Sero's moment's probably not going to come up for a while, but like we have to look at something else before we talk more about Sero. And then we have this big thing of like box 17 through 32 have reactivated. All for One is now passing by Edo City. Okay. Now, on this first page, you understand what's going on. We have the whole thing with Dobby's heat. I won't like, get into the physics of that heat. There's only the logical stuff that we'll deal with. But yeah, we have Dobby's heat, but we have a really important little thing here. We're putting out calls to all sectors, but everyone's on their last legs. Okay, this is just telling us that we're getting exhausted here, right? I really do think we might have like the night before the final battle, or the night before the final battle. I really think that's possible. I don't think we do one quick shot. I think there's probably going to be a little rest period where everyone like gets back together. That's what I think now, but like honestly, it depends on Horikoshi. He could just go all the way to the end here. The thing with this one, we're putting out calls to all sectors, but everyone's on their last legs. It tells us that we're in a desperate situation. It tells us that we're really like doing our best here. But my thing here is like the thing that I wonder is you're putting calls to everyone else. And my thought is you have more than 10, well, you have 32 shelters. You have 10 that have been activated. We know that some of them were not affected by Skeptic from the last chapter. Actually, you know what? Let me just make sure. Don't wanna get that one wrong. So this is just where it gets kind of finicky. So in the previous chapter, Labrava took back control of the evac system, so multiple blocks are on the move. But then we have one of them's been stopped from the inside, and as we find out this chapter, it just happens to be the one that the Todorokis are in. Now, right, that should be a general note. Is it convenient that the one that's in the most danger is the Todoroki family? Yes, it's very convenient. It's so convenient that I didn't expect that the author would actually go for the simplest solution of physically forcing the family to be within 5 kilometers of Dobby. Legitimately, you know, everyone that knows my style and what I say usually, I was saying like the Todoroki family has to be involved in Dobby's downfall. I thought it'd be them watching a stream. I didn't think it'd be them running away from the man actually legitimately about to kill them. Didn't think that was going to happen, but Horikoshi proved me wrong. He will go as far as he needs to like force this situation to happen. So a cruel twist of fate. But the important thing is just like what exactly was imperiled with Skeptic. Let me just continue. Anyway, there's one box, and according to Labrava, there's only one that has been, like, is giving trouble. Boxes 17 through 32 have reactivated, and All for One is not. Wait, when I say boxes, do they mean the shelters? Okay, you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's more than one shelter. We know this. My question is, if you are really looking for anyone, can you not pull out the many heroes that you've devoted to the shelters? That's my question. Because I would think, like, leave the students there since things are getting dangerous and just send the few heroes you have out to try and, like, just get a few more seconds at this point. Like, if you're at the point where you're asking, is there anyone who can fight? Like, I'm very curious about that. The people that went after Skeptic, are they actually really that tired? I'm just wondering. Because, like, some people are just running around in the woods, and I don't think that's very taxing. I haven't seen Snipe. I'm just curious. Like, can Ned Zoo put out some robots? Anyway, point is, there's a lot of things I think you could realistically question here. But I don't think we should be questioning it. I think we're at the end of Hero Academia here, and I think we should just respect that, and we should just like go along with the stage that Horikoshi wants to set up, unless he like goes and does something dumb and like screws us, screws the reader over. He like if he goes and he pulls another Kurogiri level thing where he implies Kurogiri's in the prison, but he's actually at the hospital. If he goes and does that, then we'll scrutinize it. But I think like really at this point, like there's just not the point. I don't think there's any point in trying to like apply serious logic to how we can deal with these problems, right? I think we just have to, like I said, we're going towards the end, like some things, just come up with whatever excuse you can to justify why no one can actually go there. And I'm sure that if some heroes are going to show up to help us anyway from the Japanese side, I'm sure that there'll be like a giant excuse or exception as to why they were able to show up and get there. Also with Shiketsu, seeing how quickly Shiketsu could get there, like really, I think anyone can get there if they just put in enough effort and go plus ultra enough. Like at this point, we're at the mercy of the author's whims. Nothing wrong with that though. That was just one thing that was just one of the first questions I have here. One thing to draw from this though, if like everyone's on their last legs, I'm assuming like the Kuineta fight's probably still ongoing and Sero's fight might still be ongoing. Kind of hard to tell. Anyway, this is actually a really good opening page. This guy though, I don't think he's made for this career. I love that we go into a segment where like Tsukachi's like grabbing this guy from the ground. He's being so like hard boiled and pulling him up. Yeah, no, it was an interesting little segment. Okay, so we go to page 2. I actually really like page 2. I'm not gonna question how they're able to get all these analysis done. Let's just assume they're able to like they got infrared, they got like thermal cams. The big thing that my big contention is really like how do they know that he's gonna like die in 10 minutes? Because I think that's like you need to know Dobby's tolerance for it, and I don't know if you can actually develop that without Central Hospital. Unless Central Hospital made up like a Dobby algorithm, and sure, but like, that's a little bit finicky, but whatever, helps the plot along. I do like what the author did. I do like that the author just emphasized Dobby's showmanship. I like the way that his hand is just up there like he's dancing. I like that. I think that was a nice little touch. In terms of Horikoshi and the dialogue though, this line right here is really the critical one because it's the one that gives up a little bit of leeway. Like, hey, bro, like I'm pretty sure 10 minutes this guy's done, but it might even be a little bit faster than that. I don't know. I think that's nice. I think that's a very solid way of adding a little bit of doubt into it. Although I'm pretty sure the 10 minutes is what we're going to be sticking with. This is important just because it tells you it's not exact science. So this is one of those covering his butt kind of lines that Horikoshi does. Anyway, with page 2 and 3, what we really learn is that there's like people are imperiled. Like the Todoroki family is now imperiled. On the fan translations though, there was something very interesting. In the fan translations, they said it'll burn everything off the map within a 5-kilometer diameter. Now, if you know math, you know that the diameter is very different than radius. So, given how vague the official translations are, I'm going to assume it's 5-kilometer radius. That means everything within 10 kilometers in terms of the diameter. It's going to be a 10 diameter explosion if we're assuming it's going to be circular in nature by the blast radius or by the blast. So, yeah, no, you gotta be really careful. I think it's better to say it's a 5-kilometer radius. The official translation doesn't confirm either which way. It really depends on how you interpret the statement. But I actually do wonder how the fan sub came to diameter. Usually when there's more detail, it's because there was some weird word someone picked up on. So I actually wonder, maybe it is diameter. Okay, the point is, if it's diameter, it means these things were within 2.5 kilometers. If it's radius, the things were within 5 kilometers of the Gunga Mountains. Now, we have another thing here. Yue in the east, Shiketsu in the west. The route between them passes near Gunga in the Kinki region. Okay, so now this is where like things are going to get way more intense here, because we have to look at a map. First off, it is strange to me to put something within 5 kilometers of a major disaster zone with a man that you do not know the limits of. I think that is dangerous, but I also think, you're just being pragmatic. Like, who knows when Nedzu built this? We know that he was building an underground shelter, like, since the days of one of the school briefs, so that was, like, a really long time ago. Can't fault him for doing this, because he didn't know the future. Alright? What I wonder now, though, is the shelter system. because I'm assuming that they can't be on the same track. I don't even think the schematics that we've seen before for the shelter imply that they're on the same tracks. Like, my big thought is like, okay, all these shelters are moving in a straight line from UA to Shiketsu. That's fine. It's a good thing that Nezu future-proofed this by having each shelter on their own proper track, because the one that the Todoroki family got stuck in, if this was like a train, then that means there would be many more behind it. So like, props to Nezu for potentially making multiple tracks, because that might have saved everyone else and not the Todoroki family. Also, I want to assume that Eri is probably in that shelter as well, because like, when you go back to that previous chapter and you talk about like Hawks thinking there's a glimmer of hope when he's remembering one of the when he's remembering that the shelters didn't arrive at Shiketsu, I'm thinking he must be thinking that there's someone worthwhile in one of those shelters. Okay, so we have another critical line here. Did Dobby somehow play it this way on purpose? How could he know? Wait, what if at that time Skeptic provided him with a key detail? Okay, so like, you have, I think for this to like interpret it correctly, nix this line, because this is him trying to figure it out. The critical line really is here. Now, did Skeptic tell Dobby like, hey bro, yo, if you can blow up and you can make a 5-kilometer radius explosion, you can do that. I don't think Skeptic told him that. I think the key detail that they're talking about here is, hey Dobby, I stopped one of the shelters very near Gunga. If you can imperil it, you're pretty much taking hostages. I think that's the most reasonable thing to say that Skeptic could do. I don't think Skeptic could figure out everything else. I don't think Skeptic could figure out that Dobby had a new skill that he made up by looking at Shoto. I don't think that Skeptic could have figured out that he was doing the condensing of flames. I don't think Skeptic could have figured any of that out, because Skeptic like is less than a high school programmer. All right, so I think he must have just told Dobby that, hey bro, like I put people there that we can use as bargaining chips. I think that's the most reasonable thing to do. That makes sense as to why he would do that. Now, the question is, does Dobby know he's going to explode with that much ferocity? Questionable. Okay, we move on to page 4 and 5. The purpose of page 4 and 5 is pretty much just telling us, okay, these are the people who are in trouble, and this is the guy who's moving quickly, and we're in a really rough spot. Now, one of the things I want to like just look at is that there's a lot of bombs. All these explosions, there's a lot of bombs. How did these people put these many bombs into the shelters? That's what I'm questioning. This place is a robotic paradise. How did they put in so many explosives in this area? Did they put bombs outside of the shelter, so on the rail lines? Because that would be pretty cool. But then that implies that they knew about the rail lines long enough to be able to put bombs in there. Why didn't you have surveillance systems to know that people were getting in there? Like, I have questions. I have so many questions as to how they got these bombs in this place. I just want to know how they infiltrated everything. If they knew about the rail lines to be able to set up the bombs, I just wonder, how did All for One get caught out by the many things that were built underground, like near Troy? I just wonder. I have questions. I want to know how they pulled that off. But okay, whatever. Doesn't matter. Don't question it. I do like what like Horikoshi did here with like Dobby doing a bow. Again, very theatrical. Like, Dobby's obviously not doing this in real time because he's running away from Endeavor. I really just like the like metaphor of it. Like, this is Dobby's closing act and all that kind of stuff. I think it's really neat. Okay. Sorry, I just read the Viz Media translation. I didn't know this was the gloop warp now. Oh, that's a funny one. Okay. Anyway, on this page we see All for One. That's just the other time, the other deadline that we have here. To defend Horikoshi further, we have this guy who's talking about nobody's exactly fit to fight. Again, I wonder about the people in the shelter, or I wonder about the heroes in the shelter. Surely there must be a shelter that's close enough to be able to get, send someone down in that shelter block, move them out, have them get out right near where All for One is. I don't know, like, you could figure out something. It's a world with superpowers, but you have the thing where heroes no hero can possibly make it in time. So that's a pretty good way for Horikoshi to cover his butt, in all honesty. Just say like, oh yeah, no, all these people are the ones who do not have super speed, which honestly, fair enough. Although, when you consider that what Ida's about to do, I feel like Ida's gonna try to make it to Gunga in 10 minutes. I think when you consider what Ida's about to do, I actually don't think this guy knows the maximum speed of the heroes. Okay, again, it doesn't matter. Like, this is just Horikoshi saying like, yo, this is the situation that I'm giving you. You have to accept it. Okay, we go over to page 6. What is this man still doing on the floor, bro? Like, get up. Get up, man. Like, no one's giving up here, bro. Anyway, on page 6, we have Shoto saying he's still back on his feet. We find out that this was not happening in a flashback. This has been happening in real time. I don't know what that means. I don't know, like, has Shoto just been standing there with Ida for a long time? I don't know. Where's everyone else? Have they been walking towards where Dobby is this entire time? Anyway, we have that on page 6 and 7. What you really have here is a lot of character work going on, and I think it's nice. I like the shot of Ida, man. I really like it. Yeah, no, man. Nah, I think the level of detail here as well was just very, very good. Anyway, this page ends with All Might getting through comms. Okay, so this page is interesting because there's something super interesting that happens here. Horikoshi's very smart. He like, again, like, super paranoid writer. So All Might starts talking about the situation that was going on in Ganga Mountains. What Horikoshi did here was that he showed, sorry, I can't get this any closer. He showed this little mic right there, right? The reason he shows the mic is because when you go into this thing, Dobby's on the verge of exploding and a stalled evacuation block is in the blast radius. The reason that he's doing this is because Horikoshi's saying that All Might has no way of actually knowing what just happened. The reason that he is able to know that Dobby's on the verge of exploding is because he left this mic on right here. He left the mic on, so he was listening in on everything that happened after he left the area. So that's actually very clever. So I didn't think, you know, honestly, if you didn't have this and you just had All Might telling us what happened, I would have just assumed that, like, Tsukachi told him. But I guess, like, the thing is, like, when would Tsukachi have told them? When would he have, like, passed that information over to All Might? That's, like, I guess the implication there. So Horikoshi, like, ties that up. Right? Again, super paranoid writer, but also, like, he does good groundwork when he, like, knows where the finicky parts of the story are. Honestly, for this one though, I would not have said that one was a finicky part. Anyway, what you have here is pretty much Horikoshi coming in and saying, like, hey guys, this is why Shoto is still going to be involved with Dobby. This is why you're not going to get a heaven-piercing ice wall blocking All for One's way. It's because Shoto's going to be going up against Dobby. He's not going to be dealing with Dobby directly. That's going to be an endeavor thing, but he's still going to be involved in the situation. Like, Horikoshi seems to be, like, very intent on doing the whole everyone in the Todoroki family is involved. At this point, I really wonder if the civilian Todorokis are actually going to get to see Dobby, because, like, if you were to ask me what is the best way to finish up the whole Dobby thing, like, at some point the ideal one has the Todoroki family there as well, like, in eye shot of him, but I don't know how to get to the ideal one without doing a lot of contrived things. That said, if Horikoshi's willing to do contrived things, then I can see us getting to the ideal situation. If he does a lot of cruel twist of fates, then yeah, I can see us getting to the ideal situation where everyone gets to see Dobby's final moments. Anyway, overall, page 8 and 9, they're cool. They're really cool pages, and they're the reason, like, they're just Horikoshi setting up or justifying why some things are going to happen the way they are. Alright, so we go into page 10. We have this wonderful little thing. I actually really like All Might calling them a dynamic duo. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's a good moment. I also like the way I like the way the frame was composed here. Overall, yeah, engine half hot, half cold. I love that. He's really he's really good at, like, supporting the students, but, like, are you surprised? Anyway, we go into the bottom of the page. We have them talking about the rain has done wonders for my engines. We have the justification for why Ida's going to be able to pull it off. The rain is cooling him down. Honestly, I think it's really funny to, like, be talking about, like, yo, Ida being cooled down when you have Shoto, the literal, like, ice cube right there. I'm going to assume that Shoto just can't produce any ice right now because that's the safest thing to assume. But he's going to be able to produce ice in 10 minutes. So no worries about, in less than 10 minutes, he's going to be able to do it. So no worries about that, whatever. Really, this shouldn't be a problem. Ida's going to be fine. Like, if the rain is cooling him down, then I'm sure Shoto's ice will be able to do it as well. It'll be fine. Moving on, though, like, the more interesting part here is really this one over here. Acting for the sake of others. So, the reason Stain is here is just to, like, give closure to that storyline. Again, Horikoshi's a really technical writer. Like, you've seen him giving closure. That's why Stain is here. He's just here to say, like, yeah, bruh, Ida's a hero. That he's acting for the sake of others. In context, this line doesn't make sense because it's like, bro, every hero that's left, everyone is saying that they are people who are the real heroes. They are the ones who are doing things even though, like, society is not their best friend right now. So you're already at the point, like, you're acting for the sake of others at this stage, right, in the game, all right? The thing here, though, is that there is significance to Ida being a hero. That's why you have even Ida bringing up in one of the previous pages the kind soul who told me never forget who I want to become, which I'm pretty sure is a Stain era line, right? The reason that Stain is there is just to finish up the stuff from the Stain arc and just say that, yeah, no, Ida's a good person and that Stain is fundamentally wrong because of, like, the foundation of his beliefs don't make sense. And the foundation of his beliefs, like All Might disproves them too. Anyway, that's the only reason that this line is here. It's here for the sake of narrative, not for the sake of logic. But nothing wrong with that. Like, again, you know, the thematics are being fulfilled here. You can appreciate that. Anyway, the logical detail though is that if he's did he say that line because he overheard things? Because if he overheard Ida talking to Shoto, if he overheard, like, my legs are meant to guide wayward children, and you have Stain reacting to that, and you can also see that there's a little bit of a head turn from Stain. It's this little line right here, so he's like looking away from it. What you really have to ultimately come to the conclusion of is that he probably overheard All Might. Like, I think there's a very good chance that Stain shows up to support All Might, because he has that little rider. I'm really hoping Stain shows up to support All Might, because I feel like Stain getting a stab in on All for One would be amazing. Okay, we go into the next little bit where we see Shoto and Ida blasting off like Team Rocket. Like, bruh, look at this damage the man just did. I don't know how his legs are still okay. Let's check it out. That's like a whole chunk of building gone right there. Bruh, that is a lot. Like, what kind of bomb is Ida right now? Is he a sledgehammer? Bruh. He just like ran through a building, demolished it. Like, he actually got into the building itself and then managed to hit the other one. Was he like leapfrogging? The man went from this one over to that one. Like, what the heck, man? What kind of trajectory did this guy ride on? Holy, bro. The man's all... Jesus Christ. So, like, yeah, no heroes can reach All for One. Yeah, right. Like, the man's about to go past All for One. Anyway, before I go into like a critical page here, we have this little shot with Hawks and Tokoyami. Actually, this shot really scares me. Oh, sorry. It really scares me because, like, the way that Hawks is holding Tokoyami, I really, really hope that Tokoyami still has Dark Shadow. Because, like, last time, it seemed like everything flowed. But I don't know. Like, this kind of makes it look like he doesn't have Dark Shadow. But I just hope this is just Hawks being overdramatic and just holding Tokoyami just because, you know, that's his protege, right? I hope Tokoyami's fine. I hope Dark Shadow is still with Tokoyami. I hope that Mineta's little, like, thing was able to scare All for One off so he doesn't waste time with them. Anyway, we have the whole thing that All Might found out about Shigaraki, or like the whole Shigaraki All for One thing. So, like, good stuff. Again, Horikoshi is covering his butt. When he says according to Hawks, that tells you, like, okay, that Hawks communicated to All Might at some point here. Okay, so at this point, you see, so I'm thinking you won't be able to ignore me. This is pretty much just Horikoshi listing out the thought process. You know, given that you are having impulsive thoughts, you probably won't be able to ignore me because you're like running on hatred. I do think using the very vague hatred-based physics is a good idea here, just because, you know, it covers a lot of bases. You can just say, oh yeah, it's just because of hate that Shigaraki is able to do impossible things like infect All for One with his hatred. I think it's fine. Whatever. It's a good bet. I think the construction is very good here. I think Horikoshi is using the vague parts of the story very well to, like, get a very concrete situation happening. Then we go into, of course, the quirkless line. Can someone without a quirk be a hero like you? Just to dive into it, like, sensationally, no, but in reality, yes. And the reason we can say that is, like, look at Night Eye. Night Eye's power only works for 1 hour of the day. For 23 hours, he's as normal as a really buff guy. Night Eye's superpower really are, like, the super heavy stamps that he can use to blast people into walls, alright? Like, Night Eye's superpowers are, like, really hardcore combat skills and stamps, alright? Those are his real powers. So when you ask, can someone without a quirk be a hero like... Oh, actually, looking at it, a hero like you. Yeah, no, you can't be a hero like All Might. Correction. Yeah, you can't be a hero like All Might. You know, I don't think the fan translation had like you, but maybe I'm just coping. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Point is, qualifiers there, so, like, fair enough. But yeah, you know, in reality, like, you can be a hero in the Hero Academia world. You just probably won't be All Might level, or you won't be probably in top 10. I very much doubt that. It doesn't work that way. But yeah, no. But again, to Horikoshi's credit, like, he, from the very beginning of the story, Izuku was someone's chasing the image of the hero. He wasn't actually someone who wanted to be a hero. Because if he wanted to be like a hero, he would have just settled with what he had, and he would have put in effort towards being a police officer. Like, that's why All Might brings up being a police officer to Izuku when he meets him, right? It's because, like, there are pathways to be a hero. You don't have to be the greatest hero. But of course, you know, this is a story about how Izuku becomes the greatest hero, how everyone becomes the greatest hero by just doing whatever they can to help the situation. Overall, the rhetoric ultimately works. It's just, like, always worthwhile to point out that in reality, anyone can be a hero, and that's pretty much where the story ended up here. Of course, the significance here is young All Might seeing Izuku asking this. Now, before we continue to the final page, well, we already talked about the final page. One thing that I want to talk about, though, this has been what I've just been waiting to do the entire video. Let's talk about that goddamn map, guys. Let's talk about the map. All right, so, oh gosh, the camera's a little bit finicky here, guys, so just bear with me for a second. Alright, so the reason that we're looking at the map is because we really have to, like, just remind ourselves what's about to happen. So the Dobby battlefield is this one right here. You don't believe me? See Dobby right there? It goes into this one, right? Now I can move this a little bit to the side. Let's move it around, moving it around. You might be asking, how did All Might know where to be in order to see All for One? Well, that's pretty simple, because All Might's a genius, right? So All Might just thinks, like, well, let's just confirm where Shigaraki is. I'm pretty sure he's down here. Alright, Shigaraki's somewhere around here. That kind of, like, matches up. So, all Might had to do was pretty much draw a line and just get in the way of it. Oh, that's fat line, bro. Okay, I fixed the technology. That's much better. I actually like that a bit more. Alright, so we know for sure that All Might is just somehow in between. Who is this person next to Izuku? Like, who is that, actually? 1 second. Oh, the Seto battlefield. Right. The Seto battlefield is right next to Izuku. Okay, so you have this situation here, right? All Might probably got in the way. I'm going to assume that All Might, I don't know, I'd say he's, like, right around here somewhere. I think that would be, like, the reasonable thing to do. Just say, like, he's right around here. Or I don't know if he would be on the other side of the bay here. I don't know. I really don't know where he would be, but it's, like, it's somewhere on that line. What's really funny to consider is that Ida and Shoto, what they're about to do is they are probably taking the most straight line they can do to get to Gunga Mountains. That means that's the path that we're going to be seeing here, right? That means that these guys are about to cross multiple battlefields. They could even cross All Might. Like, it would be pretty cool if they do like some kind of drive-by shooting on All for One as they fly by here. But you know, it's like Ida and Shoto are ants compared to the distance that they're traveling, right? So like, it'll be kind of hard to do that. But if like All Might was able to get in All for One's way, that, you know, I want to believe we can see some funny things. But when you see that line, it's really hilarious just how many things we're going to be dealing with here. So you have the Seto battlefield being there. Who's this one that they're crossing completely? Oh, the Koineta battlefield. So they're crossing a lot of battlefields as they get there. They might even be able to see the destruction on the side as they fly by in this little area right here where they can see Shigaraki and Izuku. It's going to be very hilarious. Now, the real big question is, can Ida just zoom over this bay? I think so. Actually, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he could zoom over that bay, but if he can't, then he has to go around and like come in from a weird angle. Anyway, yeah, no, when you look at the maps, it's like, it's kind of hilarious how many people they're going to cross to get over there. Anyway, we're pretty much back at the beginning. I feel like we've had this shot of All Might before, looking intense. I feel like we've done it before, but I don't remember. Anyway, All Might shows up, and we're at the end of the chapter. It'll be a good one. Overall, I think it's a really fun chapter. I really enjoyed it just because of all the things going on in there and just like the sophistication in it in terms of how it was put together. Now, we have a break for Hero Academia, but the One Piece spoilers, or One Piece is already in the hands of leakers, because leakers are already talking about it. No spoilers have come up for One Piece as I've been looking. As of the video, no spoilers have come up. But because the magazine's already in the hand of people, we can expect that the Hero Academia spoilers might come out earlier than usual unless everyone just kind of stays mum about it. Point is, if there's early Hero Academia spoilers and it's like early enough and not just like the regular time, I might put up a video for it so you guys can check out the spoilers if you're into that. But yeah, no, like with Golden Week or with the holidays, sometimes things come out early. Just keep an eye on it. One Piece, I expect it. One Piece is probably going to have their spoilers out on Thursday. Anyway, guys, it's a really long video, but thank you so much for watching, and yeah, till next time. I hope you have an absolutely great day, and stay safe. Yeah, 386, pretty good chapter.